Coach Massi here from Massi-Machado Strength and Conditioning with another episode of Move Your Feet. It's the video series that examines the concepts behind how you manage your anatomical components with or without resistance through space at game or life speed performance and really well. And I got a couple of emails asking me for some help in lateral movement. People say they kind of know I'm a stickler about toe point and anatomical angles and biomechanics, so I wanted to help out a little bit and really step this one back. This one might be a little longer, but we're going to try to break a few things down and provide you with some tools and tricks of the trade to help you with your clients and athletes as it pertains to ground engagement and lateral movement and how we move our feet. So I'm going to call in Coach Kernan here, and Coach Kernan's been with us for a little bit. Coach Kernan was one of our athletes previously. He played D1 baseball at Stony Brook. He was a pitcher, and now he's part of our staff here. So today we're going to talk about how we develop and become aware and cognizant of the fact that we have inside and outside edges of our feet and how that relates to acceleration, propulsion, and deceleration, or lack of control in any one of those spheres. So first thing we're going to do is Kevin's going to take his shoes off. Okay, ground engagement, hugely important. Wow, Vanna White-esque. So, very important. So as we look, and I'm hoping Maddie back there has got Kevin's feet in frame. If not, we'll come back a little bit. Like I said, informal, we're gonna break it down. So in looking at inside and outside edges of the feet, we want to be aware of exactly how we're engaging the ground and at what points of movement we have that specific ground contact. So one of the very first drills we do to help people become aware of how they move laterally is we do something called shuffle spit. But more than that, one of the things that we need to illustrate, a factor that we have to demonstrate, is very simply that we don't want anyone's feet coming any closer than 12 inches apart. So I'm going to go off frame real quick, and I'm going to grab us a tape measure. Now, just so you guys can understand what that looks like, Kevin opens his feet, and we're going to go right to 12 inches inside, there you go, inside edge to inside edge. So inside edge to inside edge on Kevin's feet right now is 12 inches. If he flexes ankles, knees, and hips, you'll see it's a little bit of a narrow squat. So if he stands and you decided to move laterally, you're kind of still underneath your operating base, but probably not optimal to get back and forth quickly. That's 12 inches. Now if we kick him out to 16 inches, that's 16 inches inside edge to inside edge. It starts to look a little better as it pertains to lateral movement. I'm happy there. So never closer than 12 inches, around 16, and sometimes there may be a reason to even get to 18. But we never really want to get any closer than 12 inches when we're moving. We are also going to pay attention to toe point and hip leak, but we'll get to that next. So how do I embed that pattern or that thought into Kevin's mind, into a client or athlete's mind? It's simple. We do a drill called shuffle spit. He's going to do it better than I. But we literally try to just make people understand that as we move, and I'm hopeful my feet are in frame right now, as we move, we're going to make a spitting sound. And the spitting sound will basically accentuate the fact that as soon as my back foot comes into play, I'm going to spit that other foot out. So I start a little wider. As soon as this comes, I get it out of the way. Now, Kevin will also demonstrate that. Shuffle, spit, and go. Good, and back. Good. So, you really don't ever want to see this. You don't ever want to see where you have a client or athlete kicking their heels laterally to move, because that would be really bad. So Kevin, now assume that position again, about 16 inches apart. Boom, good. So he's here. Now also understand this. If you get too narrow, it becomes difficult to have that positive flexion. It starts to tax somewhere. Something's going to pay. But when you're at a comfortable operating base that gets you the most acceleration, deceleration, and propulsion control, you're going to have better flexion, you're going to have better force generation, and really we're moving mass, because Kevin's so damn massive, with force and ground reaction force. So one of the other things we're going to take a look at, if Kevin were starting to move this way, as he started to move, if this toe, just the toe, if his toe starts to point, that's not great, because if Kevin's in a sport where somebody tries to come this way on him and he suddenly has to get back that way, he's got to be some kind of stud to recover from there and come back here. The other thing is we would look for hip leap. Now toe point is different. Toe point, he's just going to point his toe. Hip leap, you're going to see a discernible turn up here at his SI joint. That's even worse. This is basically full commitment and the point of no return where he can't get back up across his face. And there are a lot of sports and a lot of life situations where you want to just basically take that power pillar, that good strong foundation with you everywhere you go. So now, how do we start to ingrain the shuffle spit? How do we start to ingrain that simple pattern? Some easy ways is you just sit here and you're going to have them walk. Yeah, that's cool. But you know me, separate the upper and lower kinetic chain and then bring it back together. So Kevin grabs one of these PB extreme balls. But if you don't have one for some reason, they're on back order or something, which they never really are, Kevin can just do this, Kev, right here. He can just simply do this or hug himself. And by doing that, he's just going to take this upper kinetic relation out of play temporarily. So go ahead, do that shuffle spit or walk. Now shuffle spit back that way. Good. So you see, he's trying to isolate that lower kinetic chain, and this way we know he's receiving no assistance from his upper kinetic chain or his upper extremities, because we can put that in and it'll make this movement even that much more effective. Number two, back to the ball. Hugs that ball, nice high and tight. Now I'm going to tell you as a coach, cue this up. He's underneath the ball, he's nice and high and tight. He's not doing the old casual thing, drop it, like most people just kind of do. That's no good. That's not helping. You're going to get rotation here, and we know that rotation will also kind of lend to some kyphosis, or give you something that looks kyphotic. But there is rotation in movement. Just we have to control it. We have to have rotational control. So he's a high hug on the ball, and go ahead, shuffle spit. And then back. Okay, so now you see he's going a little backwards because his foot's coming in first. That's why we do this. Even Coach Kernan, we're going to have to break it down, and we're going to have to start to critique this. He went and he brought his foot forward. And that's why we do this stuff real time. We're not going to rehearse this 50 times and then give you guys the clean, uncut version that, or I should say cut version, that makes everything look perfect. That's not the case. So we'll tell them once again, as you move laterally, you're going to want to start a little wider. You're going to move this back foot in first, because as soon as you feel that back foot encroach upon the front foot, you're going to say, get out of the way and spit. So it's here. You want to spit it out. Quick, quick, quick. He's going to try it again. We're going to have him hug that ball. And go. Little better. Cool. So now I'm like, how do I pound that in even further? Well, that's a good question. Now, if you need to use markers, all good. Use markers. When we have a number of athletes or clients in a room at one time, especially when we're dealing with 6 or more, in some of our classes, we have very large classes, 20, 30 upwards. You need a visual. You have to be able to see. You have to know what looks symmetrical, what looks asymmetrical, and we like to have diagnostics across the room. And one of the great ways to do that is by using simple markers. But another way we're really going to try to pound the ideas of inside and outside edges of the feet and how he actually has ground engagement into his brain is we're going to get him some reactivity. Peripheral stimuli that's not only going to give him utilization of ground reaction forces, but also give him peripheral stimuli reactivity from a Tsunami Bar. It's a flexible barbell. This one happens to be the Tsunami Light Bar Plus Fat Grip, which he's just going to put on his shoulders. And as you can see, Coach Kernan's got to beef up a little bit on that clean movement, but that's all good. So here's something really important. This is now going to tell him self-diagnostics. He's going to be able to report to me subjectively, I guess, right? And I'm going to look objectively, and he's going to tell me what he feels at the end of this movement. He's going to close his arms down a little bit, okay? He's going to pull down on the bar, and now he's just going to simply step left and right. And we're going to watch if he starts having separation. I should be able to lay a piece of tape from cone to cone and come on back. And you see that reactivity from the bar? It's causing him to fight it. Stand straight and relax. You can't see what I saw, but you can pop that off. If we really got into it, as he started to move, he got what we call a little ankle roll. He got a little outside edge dominant. But as you continue to work these movements, you'll start to develop a better understanding and better command in moving your feet in space at game and life speed performance to have that ability to change directions. Because as we go through this series, we're going to start talking about what edges we use. And leading into the next video, we're going to actually talk about what we're at here on inside and outside edges of the feet. Outside edge here, inside edge here. Because if we know we're going back that way already, we want to make that commitment. Look, you can play around with a lot of this peripheral equipment. At the end of the day, it's the way you translate it to the client or the athlete. If you take the time to develop the patterns, I really feel like if you invest in some equipment that can help you develop your programming better, it would be a win for you and it's a win for your client and athlete. So next time we're going to actually take a look at how we move laterally with some winning angles. But until that time, this is Coach Massi here from Massi-Machado Strength and Conditioning. Thank you.